a lot of M&A happening, a lot of icing up of new IP development, studios not getting funded, games getting shut down. We're still in that zone, it seems like, because of, this is all driven by capital and to investment for the marketplace and game development studios, etc. So the investors are like, why aren't you delivering this again here? I'm going to back off. There's other factors, forcing factors in our country with change and uncertainty in markets as a result of tariffs. And so that's another thing I've seen that's happening right now. And then the third thing that is going on is what? AI. Who said that? Oh, you can be on the panel next time. So that's pretty, I think that sums up of kind of how we're in here and how many, raise your hand, of you are unemployed right now, looking for work in the games industry. 50%, maybe a little more. So that's, like I said, we're here, we can make ourselves more mighty together in Seattle. But I thought this was really interesting to see that, trend, and that's what I believe is impacting that side of this trip. And then let's drill down from the United States to Washington. So this is numbers from 2024, again, Entertainment Software Association, and this $13.9 billion, my friend Sam, if you look out there, what do you see? Right down there, if you look down. The Port of Seattle. My friend Sam is a commissioner for Port of Seattle, and I like to lord over him. The video games industry in Washington State just surpassed the Port of Seattle. And he's like, fuck you, tariffs. They're he's a bastard. But I hope someone videos this and I can set it. Thanks, Sam. I'll try not to swear. God damn it. Anyway, I think that's really interesting. Video games is huge in Washington State. It says 323 companies in Washington State. I know that's wrong because we're not on the list. My company is not on the list. So there's got to be more hiding around here and there. But, 28,000 jobs. They did this study a few years prior, and there was 28,000, or 28,000 jobs, and 2020 was 48,000 jobs. So I would say 10,000 of those layoffs probably just Microsoft. Damn it! Come on, guys. And then, but I don't know. Maybe this is flattening, or maybe the researchers just took a different approach on doing actually the canvassing and counting what counted as a games job. I don't know, but let's still blame Microsoft for. Okay. Okay, keep going, Brady. Okay. All right. So drilling down further from Washington State, global, United States, Washington State, Seattle. Seattle's amazing. And shout out to Seattle Indies. It says the largest community of independent game developers in the United States, which is insane and awesome, which is why I love it here. It's why I keep coming back and only ever want to live here because it's all the coolest, smartest, nerdiest people. And I want to just think Seattle Indies people don't know this, I don't think, but they are the fiscal umbrella for Conspire. And so when we get sponsors and we're like, what do we do this money to buy the pizza? Tim helps it get organized and we can buy the pizza. So thank you, Tim, and thank you, Seattle Indies. 10,000 members on Meetup, 7.3 on Discord, 150 community events hosted in 2024. Tons of events, not just here, but Olympia, Bremerton, covering Puget Sound, showing up at Geek Girl Con, Washington State Gaming Expo, Geek Fest, PRG, whatever that is, I don't know what it is. It's Expo. Leadership programs, scholarships, and the list goes. They just did a feminist to help moderate a panel for that. That was really fun. But just tons of good work. So thank you. Thank you too. They're also doing, who's an independent developer? like 10% of them. That's pretty good. I want 12. Did you guys go to Slice? Yes, so we sponsored first time for Seattle Indies to run a full conference for developers, focused on developers, overlapping with Max. Super smart. Do you think he'll do it again, Tim? Yes. Okay. Go next year. Check it out. Slice. And they also do Seattle Indies Expo. Did you guys demo your gear at Expo? Some of you? No? I went. Yes. Okay. SC3. Good job. But you know the 6. This is where Slay the Spire rolled out from. You know, all of these great games and development coming up, and they've got a place to do it, which is awesome. And then this is way too much text. I don't know why we put all this on one slide too. But I will read it to all of you right now. I work with Tim on games and education industry. We do one event a year where we're getting educators and game developers to talk about how to build interactive learning experiences in our classroom. That's awesome. I think my 11-year-old appreciates to have more gamified and interactive experiences. We do one big event at the end of the year, so we're aiming for November 10th, and we bring out great speakers. It's a very kind of specialized group of people that want to make games for young people that are educational games, so tons of those out there doing vendors. Yes, she's doing it. We've got one. How many other educational game makers? No? Okay, well then you can be our keynote. Thank you. Okay, and then these are the websites for Seattle Indies. You don't have to memorize them, but you can, because there's a QR code. You can just pop up your phone and get connected. So I strongly suggest you get connected. So what this really highlights to me is that Seattle Indies is, you know, providing this awesome service. And so drilling down even further, here we are in this room. We went from global, national, Washington State, Seattle, and now you're right here, right now. This is the group that makes shit happen here in Seattle. You guys are out on a Friday night, and so you are my people. And we get to nerd out together. So thank you so much for coming. I'm gonna bring up some panelists now, and we're gonna talk about their experience in the game space right now. And why don't you guys panelists come up and join me? There's 2 mics here. Let me turn this on and make sure that it works. Testing. That one works. Why don't you two share and you two share? We don't need to have this blasting right in your face. So quickly, that's Bernie, Katie, Adam, and Zach, because I have to get rid of the slide so that retinas don't burn out. How do we turn this one on?
Testing.
What is this even plugged into? Oh. If you turn it on, it turns on. Okay. So, this is kind of fun. It's almost spooky season, so we got the lighting right on this. Where it's like we're gonna do ghost stories. No, it's not gonna be that scary. Let's start with quick introductions. Who are you? What's your company? And a little bit of maybe your background, and then we can get into some discussion points.
I'm Bernie. I am hiring a UX designer, so if anyone is a good UX designer, senior, come hit me up. I started a studio called Wind Up Minds 2023. Actually, I got it started because Josh told me to come to a Conspire where there was a venture capital guy, and I talked to him, and he was my first money in. We make a virtual pet, which is kind of like a Nintendo or Tamagotchi. You may recognize other games I've worked on, Plants vs. Zombies 2, a little Destiny, a little Rock Band, a little EverQuest, and a bunch of games that really did not do well. I don't want to think about it.
I have to go after Bernie.
You got this.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Golden. I am very new to the startup scene. I'm the CEO of a company called New Pantheon. We're working on a single player action adventure game. And we just started our pre-seed round. So I can't tell you anything about the game.
Investors in the room? Angels?
Hi. Nobody.
Oh, I see.
Let's get
Hand up
friends.
over there. I do some angel investing to expand the network.
My time in games, let's see, I feel like I've been in games for 100 years in game dev time, but similar because I worked at Bungie with Bernie. Also, I spent a lot of my time on the Forza Horizon series, both Forza Horizon 3, 4, and 5. I shipped some Sonics, and then most recently I was at Monolith.
Thank you.
I'm Adam Phillip. I run an intellectual property law firm called Aon Law, but I've been playing video games longer than some of you have been alive. So I started in '79 on a PDP-11. But I'm here to talk about AI and IP and how those interplay, because there's a lot of IP in games, and actually a lot of game designers, developers don't even know what IP is, but they talk about it a lot.
I'm Zach, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I've had several companies, and my current company that I founded is called Thies, and we were working with advertisers and big brands to get into esports and gaming, which I've now found my way into working with Twin Galaxies. Who here has heard of Twin Galaxies? Who has a record in the Twin Galaxies record book? You might want to PDP. No? Okay. So yeah, basically we're working with them to help commercialize what they've been doing with individual world records and bringing them to game studios and also advertisers so that they can run community events using our platform.
Great, thank you. Adam kind of took the cards there and started talking about AI, because that, one of the things I asked them to do is think about how we can have an honest conversation about AI. Like I showed on the graph, my expectation is that as a force that's impacting our industry in a really significant way, like it is most industries right now. And so I would like to just kick off with a question to the group of, do you use it, and if so, if you're willing to tell how you use AI in your workflows or in your development, maybe your thoughts on how it can either be a good or a negative. And my team that we build games together, some of them hate it, some of them absolutely love it. And so I never tell my team how to do their job, but I give them all the tools that they need or want. And so, our strategy was just to set up agents, whatever they wanted to choose from, and let them try and figure out how to work it into their workflow. There's a few things that I really like, cleaning up my messy notes or whatever, that I'm like, boom, that's nice. But yeah, why don't you guys tell us what you think?
I'll go first, since I got it. So I'm not a game developer. I can't code. I can't read code. I have no idea what, I know CSS styles sheets probably at best, but I made a game. I made my own web game. I made a match 3 game, and it was at the beginning of fantasy football season, and so I was doing a lot of podcast listening, and I have a long-standing fantasy football league that I've been in, and I made a match 3 game of our favorite teams in there. I made it purely on ChatGPT. I made it in about an hour and a half and got it published onto the web, and it was playable. It had a leaderboard, it had scoring, it had a timer, and like I said, I can't write a line of code. So for me, I think there's a direct impact from just my own personal experience of building a game, vibe coding, that AI definitely is going to have a big impact on the video game industry. And one of the reasons I think that is that video game developers are very fluent in all things AI and all things development. Because I also work with people in the advertising industry, and they are not. And so like, I can see the difference between the people that I work with on the advertising side who basically use AI as a note taker, and then people that I know in the video game space that are building fully functional games. I mean, beyond my little janky, buggy web app. So I personally think that AI is going to have a probably outsized impact in the video game industry compared to some others.
I'm going to argue that. Yeah, I mean, people play games for pleasure. They seek emotional, like, satisfaction, happiness, joy, fear. Like, these are really hard things. It's the only software in the world that drives those emotions, right? And that's why I think games are the hardest software to write. And like, when there's a bug in your game, I mean, you know, you've been through triage, like, it's terrible. And we spend all this time trying to fix bugs, and then we release the game, and then the gamers are like, God damn you, why didn't you fix this bug? Like, we're doing the best we can. And like, that sort of craft is to build an experience that drives an emotional response. So like, I wrote games in BASIC on my Apple II and Pascal. Like, it's been a long time, but I think you need to write a level of craft to deliver the experience that people want. And I admit that I'm older, and I don't play, you know, I'm not a Roblox person, and there's a level of jank that's acceptable. But I still think that people want a crafted experience, and they have no, like, getting something, what did Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic, said? The first 80% of your game, first 80% of the time you finish 80% of the game, the next 80% of the time you finish the last 20% of the game. Like, that's what it is. So you get to 60 or 70%, great. But the last 20% is what makes a game beautiful. So I'm gonna hold that line. We use AI, I think CEOs use AI a lot to get decks together. We use programming tools. The best programmers kind of don't like it. The technical designers kind of like it. Like, it's a great tool. Is it like a 10x person? No.
Those are strong words. You haven't even played his match 3 game yet, so I mean.
I worked on Bejeweled. I mean,
You might drop more minutes. Go ahead.
I worked on Candy Crush.
So we're obviously not developing games, but we are developing software in-house for our team, and I do some vibe coding. But how I've been using AI with my team is that we write very difficult documents, and my team gets writer's block. And so I use AI as a starter engine for them. It's like, let's get they're lawyers, they're not creative enough to come up with the content originally, but, I'm sorry, this isn't being recorded, right? No, but they
Your associates are going to
but they sometimes get writer's block when there's this very complex problem, and use AI as a starter engine to get a first version that they're like, oh, this is completely wrong, I can make this better. And so that's been the most common way that we've been using it substantively, beyond the note-taking and querying back of what conversations have.
I see our game design team do that all the time, where they're like, I'm stuck on this white page. I'm gonna just throw some ideas into the machine and get my engine going.
Which it can be really helpful for.
So I'm more in the production space, so I hear like note-taking and then dialogue creation, as you're saying. I found the most practical application at first was thought partnership. Now sometimes it's wrong, so you do have to contribute in your own way, but I use Copilot a lot and say, please go through my SharePoint and give me a 1-minute synopsis of blah, or I need a slide deck that says this, and it'll feed it out to me. Other tricks that I've really enjoyed that I'll show, these are prompts, is can you repeat the last 5 minutes of this meeting? And has this person answered that question yet? Or what do I need to focus on today? Please look at my email, look at my tasks, look at all these things and tell me what is the most important thing I need to be thinking about based on what I said previously. We are recent converts into the AI conversation. I will share some perspective here as I've been on the beat in pre-seed. How often I get the question, how are you using AI? And the wrong response is to say, well, what problem am I trying to solve? Because that speaks to a naivety. So if there's one thing I did want to impress upon the audience is that I don't think this is going the way of NFTs or crypto. This one's here to stay. And investors do want to hear that you are leveraging AI and also that maybe you have some tech that you are working on that they can invest in also, and they can go out and share. The last thing that I will say on this matter is there's currently 400 AI startups, and only 50 of them are image generation. So that means that there are 350 AI startups that are funded, that are helpful for making games. They can't all be AI gen.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the reasons I wanted to have this as a topic for this group is because I'm, talking to different people who ask Perfect Day Games to make video games for them and want to partner. And now every time they do, they're asking, what is the AI platforms and strategies that you use in your development processes? And the fun thing is we could say, yeah, we just took this whole vector that no one wanted to do and put it on an open source platform, and we reduced our costs other than time and motion to zero. That used to be, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars a year, 100 plus thousand. That's a pretty big savings for our type of project. So I can see a lot of value to startup companies like yourself. How many of you guys are in startup or indie studios? I asked this before, but I'm gonna ask it again because I forgot. And so, okay.
So I want to also add another thing that I use AI for all the time, which is, I think it was kind of what Katie was saying, is that when you're out trying to raise money, or you're trying to put pitches together to get clients or customers, you have to make endless numbers of decks, like deck after deck after deck after deck, and sometimes you get that writer's block where it's like, I can't recreate this deck again. And so the deep research function in both Gemini and ChatGPT, you got to bounce between them, because if you just singular source one of them, you don't get a lot of good feedback. But if you kind of bounce between them, that is a really, really good tool that has saved me probably hundreds of hours in the last couple of months. I talk to, a customer or an investor, and they have like, oh, well, how is this going to affect me in this way? You can immediately dive in and get, pretty solid data that you didn't massage into a deck or a white paper or that. But I mean, we've accelerated our ability to really understand our own business, the industry, the climate so much faster. I mean, some of the stuff that we've been producing recently, because it also starts to learn who you are and what your business is, that would have taken us like 2-3 months. We get it in like 2-3 hours now.
I think there's two different things that I don't want to get conflated here. Is a tool for productivity, which I think we all use and think it's fantastic. I will note that it's a little bit like the McDonald's hamburger, is that the price of the compute is being subsidized by the stock market, right? So when you pop into ChatGPT and you do some stuff, like it's free and it costs like, I don't know, $10 to do, right? None of these companies are making money, which means there's going to be a reckoning of some point of like the cost for the compute versus the transaction. So then your utility as a tool, you have to reevaluate that. So I think that is, but no one's doubting it's a tool, and I agree, like it's here to stay. The second thing is it consumable by the consumer? Like, do players want it in a way that directly affects them? I think that is unclear to me, right? Like I think all of us who've made games can see AI art, and like, yeah, it feels AI-y. And it's very different than like playing Genova Chen's game or looking at gardens, right? They're beautiful. And I think that the question is, what do players want? And I think that is unclear, right? No one, people, the obvious thing was like, you're gonna have NPCs that can talk to you. Dude, I lived in New York City, and who did I talk to every day? Like, there are 8 million people I could have talked to. I talked to like 3, right? No one wants to talk to 8 million people, right? No one wants to go through Oblivion and be like, tell me about your rat infestation. Like, no one's gonna do that, right? So, but that's the obvious solution that everyone goes to. So like, what does player want? And I think that is not so clear. And as game developers, we're trying to deliver a fantasy to the player. And the one thing I learned, and I'll tell like the story when I joined Oculus, Atman Binstock and Mike Abrash came from Valve, and Atman took me aside and said, all the stuff you want to do in VR, we tried it at Valve. None of the obvious stuff works. And he left Valve, because Valve didn't know what to do with VR, right? So, sorry, Gabe. But he said, do the non-obvious things. Like, those are the ones, everything we thought would work, like, because the first order solution is never the right one. So his advice was, if it felt like a first order solution, skip it and do something not obvious, right? So my thing, I think, is for players, as game developers, you want to do something that's like not obvious. Like a chatbot is the obvious one. I don't think it's going to work. I would put artificial dating aside as sort of its own subcategory, but I would argue that's not going to work. That's my like tool versus product.
Do you want me to respond to that?
I don't know.
I can make a
Argue
point.
that point.
I'm not going to argue
against-
all
no.
of that. I can contribute a thought. The players want excellent quality, and what game devs are, they are the tastemakers. I do not think that there's going to be a device or a product or a tool that's going to replace taste. And so that is what our roles are as game developers is to use the tooling to get there better, faster, stronger, because gamers want games. And the slate's looking kind of light in the next couple of years. And so it's getting games out faster. That is what we want to do as game developers, but also make sure the quality is high.
And so one difference between productivity and content actually comes back to that issue of IP. And sorry for being biased, but I like talking about IP. And does anyone remember the monkey selfie? Anyone? Few people. A monkey grabbed a photographer's camera and took a selfie of it. And the photographer tried to argue that he owned the copyright. He owned the IP. And the court eventually said no. The monkey didn't own it because the monkey's not a human, and the IP was created to protect human creators. And so nobody owned that IP. It was a public domain image. All that monetization, you couldn't argue copyright infringement or anything around that. AI is a monkey. Anything that AI is going to be creating for you, when you're filing it, if you try and get a copyright on it, the Copyright Office will say, please disclaim everything that was created by an AI. If you file it at the Patent Office, they will say, please show me that there was a human inventor involved here, otherwise you're not entitled to protection. So it's useful to remember that there's a difference between production and content, and that there are ramifications for relying too heavily on AI to produce your content.
That's a super good point, and you're helping me segue into one of the last two questions. So before the very last question, I want you guys to think about and share what you think are the trends we'll see in the 5-year, 10-year horizon as the output. So one that that's maybe positive and a negative. So the positive I see is a lot of being careful around their IP. A lot of 1 to 5 person studios can jam on something and go way farther, way faster. So if you're not using some of these tools and you're feeling like it's hard for you to get stuff produced, it might be worth trying to pick them up. The counter side of that is we are going to have a search and findability, discoverability problem because of Zach's goddamn match 3 thing. There's going to be 10 billion of those by next month.
Yeah, and on that point, I think it's even
You
worse.
started it.
Yeah, I know, it's my fault. But also, I think the UGC platforms are making it worse too. Because it's so, my 9-year-old is now a Roblox developer. And she's made stuff that's playable. And do her friends care that it's garbage and that it's janky and it's like you keep dying in the same jump spot? No, because she made it, so they all play it. And so I think that's something, if you talk about the negative side of it, I think the whole force mechanism of the UGC economy is big part of the glut that there is of games and this attention that's being taken. So I don't disagree that a good game is good art and has an awesome narrative and a great story, but how do you get through the social games that the kids that are playing it don't care how quality it is? So what I see on the good side though is that there is opportunities for good games to be made if you can build a community and you can build a fan base and you can find a player base that actually agrees with you with what your art is really good. I kind of worry that there is such a glut of crappy games like I made with my Match 3 that's going to get harder and harder and harder to do. And so I think if you're building a game, you can't just think about the art. You have to think about the business of it from the beginning. And if you have 10 hours a day to spend, you need to consider 4 of those hours on how am I going to reach players, how am I going to get them to acknowledge my game, how am I going to get them to play my game, and then how am I going to get them to come back. And I think
community managers out here, the MVPs, yeah, maybe. All right.
so that's what I think is on the bad side, is that it's like, because I think AI is going to make UGC accelerate even faster. Like that's where I see AI is going to just absolutely explode. And then when GTA 6 comes out and all these people are not, because I think they're going to make it all UGC, there's going to be just even more rush towards that. So that's where I think if you're a game maker, you really have to focus on your community first. But I think that's an opportunity because you can actually build a really good relationship.
All right. Who wants to take the next thought on trends, the longer impact of AI? Besides, the price is going to spike up once they realize that they have to make revenues.
We don't know.
Nobody knows.
That's what we're all asking. I'm in every
Thank you for
group
coming.
chat. I'm in every group chat saying like, do you guys know what's gonna happen? Because I can't.
So
I can't read the news
I
here.
was going to start this question with like, besides people asking what's going to happen, what do you think? Because that is the chorus in the room of everyone trying to be predictive, and people have different ideas, or they, like you say, I have no idea, and I don't care. I'm just wanting to build rad games, and I'm staying focused on this stuff. So that's a fine answer.
Well, I'll say a couple of things. Well, one is AI and the training of AI and the just giant sucking sound of data being pulled into these LLMs has finally been the forcing factor that small creators have been able to like step up and feel their power and say, you know what, enough is enough. You're making enough money off of our creations that we're starting to see. So there was a settlement recently with Anthropic where 500,000 independent authors settled with Anthropic for $1.5 billion, and that's unicorn money. And we'll see if that settlement sticks, but it sort of sets a threshold of if you steal data,
That's right.
it's going to cost you 3,000 times as much as if you get the data legitimately.
And this is the flip side of what you said earlier, because you said, hey, everyone, watch out that you don't go to patent or copyright things that you can't prove a human or you are in charge of, because they're going to deny those things. But the elephant in the room, proverbial elephant, is these guys stole all the shit from all of time, all the copyrighted and IP, trademarked materials, and got away with it. And so that's, tech oligarchy. In effect, they have some pretty big bank accounts and legal teams to come, combat anyone that's trying to seize offenses. Some bigger players are
Not just
coming
little
in.
guys, Disney's going after it.
Yeah, and you do not mess with the mouse.
So we'll see how the mouse does on this. Disney.ai is going to come in.
Well, Disney and Universal, but Disney and Getty Images. So there was an image generation company. I forget which one it was, but
Getty watermark on it.
yeah. So they were producing everything with the Getty watermark, which brought in trademark law in addition to copyright and patent law.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's kind of it's a little bit of a dumpster fire, right?
My studio, the first thing we did was virtual pet, right? And it is GoFi, good old-fashioned AI. We're trying to use various like behavior tree and utility systems and changing stimuli, and it's great because we're trying to simulate a dog, and a dog is not a human. because everyone has a dog nose. And so when the AI doesn't do something you think it does, you're like, oh, it's like a dog, right? So it's pretty powerful for that. And we're actually doing a thing which I shouldn't really talk too much about, but we're actually doing an AI project. But we're using it in a novel way, like we're not trying to make a AI person. So I think the thing, there's a parable of the farmer. I don't know if people know the parable of the farmer, like this farmer and the horse runs away and like, this is terrible.
It's too long.
Like, so you don't know what's gonna happen, right? So focus on the thing that's happening in front of you. There's so much, like none of us know, like do the thing that is in front of you. And like, don't try to predict too much because you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah,
That is my advice.
It's kind of product management fundamentals is get an audience to give you feedback if you're on the right track.
Right away, as soon as possible.
And early and often. Okay, we have more socializing and fun to do for the last hour, but I would like to leave it on a high note. And there's a lot of folks that are looking for work or are doing indie studios and doing startups. And so, what encouraging advice do you have for the audience tonight in those vectors?
Or recommendations. I actually have courage. Everybody has a set of things that are unique to them. People expertise, stuff like that. And that's the thing that you need to leverage, right? Like, what do you have? And like, work that. Because everybody else's stories are relevant to you. Like, you have a thing, figure it out, and use that. And I think that is gonna be way more fertile than you imagine.
I feel like I can say something similar to that. Again, in the world of funding and investment, there's a sense of where do I put my money? And a lot of the conversation is around vibes. And how do I feel when I talk to this person? Are they gonna make a good investment partner? When things get rocky, am I gonna enjoy my conversation with them? And so the words of encouragement that I will offer is that sometimes charisma will really help you get your point across. Now, you must be able to talk about product market fit, and you must test your game, and you need to provide validation, as we talked before, but if you can have a good conversation with somebody and you look like you really, really care about your game and you're gonna dig in really hard for it, and you're gonna be a good partner, that does help you stand out in the conversation.
If you are the first one to create your content, then using AI as a force multiplier to augment that initial creation, I think is going to be a really powerful tool for those people that have a story that they had and they wanted to tell in a game or in some creative fashion, but the AI is going to give them that digital courage, the equivalent of liquid courage, to go out and bring that out to the community. But if you want to keep that IP, be sure you created it first yourself.
And I guess I would say that now's a good time to actually start something. There is, a lot of people not hiring. And so instead of banging on door after door after door, you got to keep banging on doors, but spend 50% of your time building your own thing, and the tools are now available for you to do it. I've got a good friend who's a developer. He was recently laid off from Warner Brothers, and he, is just building games, and he's just doing it, and he's releasing them. He's releasing them on the web. He's trying to get them onto the mobile. And now all of a sudden he's gotten phone calls. He's like, well, but I don't want to get a job now. Like, I'm interested in running my own studio. So I channeling him in the work that he's been doing. And I think now the tools are available. I mean, that's one of the things that AI, there's all kinds of different, there's the large language models, but there's also then specific tools that are built for delivering code. There's game engines now that are out there. And so if you have an idea and you have a passion, prove it, right? Like, build it, do it. And maybe it turns into a game that gets released on Steam and you sell 1 million copies, or maybe it gets you a foot in the door on a job.
I'm hyped. I want to go do that. Yeah. I want to find someone to work with tonight on that mission. That sounds fun. Let's give it up for the panelists. Thank you. And Zach, peace, and you're doing so much stuff.
Yeah. Twin Galaxies.
Twin Galaxies, peace. So, let's hang out again. We've got another hour plus to hang out here at the beautiful club and look at the post-sunset vista here. And yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing. Happy National Video Games Day. Yeah, let's hang.